Ladies and gentlemen, this is step one in our exercise in high contrast image editing. We are going to begin with Photoshop in a nice high resolution CMYK image file, hopefully 300 ppi. Don't forget, cardinal rule, always start with a high resolution file. Please keep your eye to the right of the screen and observe the layers. As you all know, layers are the keys to your success. Always hit Command J. Well, you can't do that on a base layer. There we go, until you click on it. Get yourself a backup. Just in case you make a mistake, you always want a backup. Now, when you watched your 3 videos in your tutorial for your lesson, you found that you can do the technique of high contrast image editing by just clearly hitting Command U, which is hue saturation, desaturating the layer till it becomes black and white, then hitting Command L, which is your levels palette, and you can bring in your highlights to destroy or blow out or remove the white, and then bring in the blacks to increase the density of the blacks until you achieve these 2 sliders, black and white, have to come almost completely together until you achieve 100%. Then you click OK. Now, this is a layer in Photoshop. This is not in color. This is not transparent. It's on or off. It has black and white. Now, you can lower the transparency and you can see the color information that you've preserved. You've gotten a lot of strong black from the blacks. Now, you want to create an art piece with multiple levels of color. So you need to have another version to capture the other ranges of color. So let's turn that layer off. Let's go back to background. Command J, Command U, desaturate, Command L, and now let's try to capture another color by just trying a different technique to our levels. We're going to go really dark and now really light. And you'll notice we're bringing in other color. Some of the midtones are now showing up. Click OK. So you have a variation. I will click between layer 1 and layer 2. You can see that there are differing ranges of color that have been selected. So these could be applied to each other to create color variation. The problem with this technique is in Photoshop, you can't see that color because the layer itself is literally black and white and they're overlaying. But this is how you would begin to build the multiple layers of color information that you need to create a piece of art using the high contrast image technique. That is the simple, basic way. But as you can see, when you start overlaying, you get a lot of information that cross-pollinates or crisscrosses and overlaps. Doesn't make it easy. So let's use one of the other techniques that were in the videos. That would be a masking technique. Let me throw these away. Get back to my base. Let's pretend we're starting from scratch. Command J. New layer. We're going to go through a quick mask review. All we have to do is hit Q. Make sure we have a paintbrush. Control, click on your canvas. Will show you your brushes. You want to get yourself a modest size brush. You can see there, I'm looking at about 1/4 inch. And you want your hardness on 100%. Come back to your image. find your foreground, middle ground, and background images. Foreground for me is our little avocado peeler. I'm going to start with a rough selection. Now, guys, I am not going to sit here and bore you making masks. I am doing very quick masks around my shapes. They are not perfect, and they do not represent the type of quality that you want in your project. But look what I'm doing. I am point, click, walking around, making a basic mask. Finish the edge. Now, we've talked about viewing masks in channels. Look at my screen. Look at the layers. Next to my layers, I keep my channels. We are in quick mask mode because we can see the pink highlighted layer and the pink on our screen. But we can also look behind the scenes at the quick mask. If we go to channels, turn off CMYK, we can see it. It's called quick mask. I want you to do this so you can see if I grab the paint bucket tool, and that tool is now allocated to black, I can come over and fill my shape. I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to go over a problem with this technique. As I zoom in, look at what happens. Paint bucket fill will leave you with a pixel row of gray that needs to be eliminated. And we eliminate it using the same technique, I'm zooming out, as we do for high contrast image editing. Look, a quick mask is a high contrast image, black and white. Command L. I don't want highlights in my image. So I'm going to go to shadow and push. And now anything that's less than 0, that's gray, we've added black to it. And there you see that halo or that line disappear. Fit back on screen. There's your quick mask. Let's go back to CMYK. Let's go back to history or layers. Turn our quick mask on. Now you'll see it's a solid. We can turn it off. It goes to a selection. We can hit Command J, and now we have a layer. Turn off all the others. You can see there's our foreground. I'm going to go back to layer 1. Hit Q, quick mask, real quick. We're going to make our mid ground, our 3 boxes. This is the perfect image to pick because it's rather simple. I'm going to go around my avocado peeler. I'm going to go round, 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 round. That's 2. I want you to observe the quickness of these masks. This is how you start a mask. You can refine the mask when you're finished, but this is a great way to start. 3 quick masks, none are perfect. You can go back and add or subtract to make them perfect. I'm going to grab my paint bucket. Fill, fill, fill. Command L, push the black. Get rid of that halo before you forget. Click OK. Click Q. You are now back to a selection on layer 1. Command J. And now you see you have a middle ground. So let's build the picture. We'll start with foreground. Layer below, middle ground. Layer below that, background. We now have 3 layers of color that we can manipulate and image contrast to get varying levels of hue and saturation. So let's do this. Please look, layer 1, 2, and 3. Background, middle ground, foreground. Every time we work, we're going to make a copy. We're going to turn everything off. We're going to Command U, hue saturation, make it black and white. Click OK. Command L, play with the high contrast. The problem with it, it is literally destroying the avocado peeler. So what do we do here? Do we go the other direction and make a solid and just get some shadow? We can start to see that there's some dimension on that avocado peeler. We can come back and forth. We can try to capture that shadow. Remember, it's got to be black and white, 100%. So see how there's gray there? Click OK. Push it again. Get that black to disappear. Make sure there's no selection. There is not. Command L. Push. Push. You cannot get it any blacker than that. Click OK. There's your first. There's your foreground. Let's go to layer 3. Command U. Hue saturation. It is now black and white. Command L. We want to image contrast that. Now again, you have to control it for your art. You might decide to take the coffin and make that its own layer and do that separately. You might decide to do all 3 of these. I'm only showing you the basics, guys. Some of you might have 37 layers till you get the color separation you need. The key is this right here, the black and the white. You need that 100%. And we're going to move that around until we got it. Look at that. That's perfect. Now, there's nothing on the face of that bag now. So what you might do, first of all, look what I did. I made a mistake. I did it to a layer before I made a copy. So Command J, turn it off. Command U, boom. Command L, in contrast. In contrast. Black and white, good. Now watch. Do it again, down to the color. Command J, Command U. Desaturate. Black and white first. Command L. I want the bag, the coffee bag in the middle here this time. So I'm not going to go so blown out. I'm going to keep it almost black like this. And then I want to get just a little highlight to pop out. I'm going to push it even more. Push it over. Bring it back. Okay, I like that. Now I've got 2 levels. I've got this black. I've got that black. A lot of cool stuff. Now, I'm going to go back to layer 1, which is the solid. I'm going to hit Command J, so I have a preserved background. Actually, I already do, so theoretically I can throw that away. Command U, desaturate. Command L, let's get some contrast. That's what we're going to do. Click OK. We can't have 2 levels. Don't forget, we can't have black and gray. We need to get rid of some more of that information. Okay, so now we have color designation in black and white. We have layer 1. We have layer 2. Don't forget the layers cover the next. That's color. Get that out of the way. So layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 is background. We have this additional layer of color information that you will not see right now because you cannot see through white in Photoshop. Don't forget, you're making masks of black and white color. Now, before I save this, I want to eliminate all my color information because I now am going to be working in black and white. So I'm saving my file with a black base, then a black mid-ground bottom layer for the darker colors. Then I'm going to add my mid-toner highlight to that layer. And then I've got my foreground piece. So now I have 4 separate color channels to work with in Illustrator. I'm going to now save my file. I'm going to give it a name that allows me to recognize it as a high contrast image that I can use in Illustrator. That is the technique, guys. We are taking a color image in Adobe Photoshop, breaking it into layers, breaking it into midground, foreground, background, high contrasting the different ranges of color from light to dark, masking out images to create segregated color. So we can take this into Illustrator with clean color and create a vector file for high contrast image based on pop art. And that is the mission, guys. So keep that in mind. Save as. Leave it a PSD. I'm just going to put it on my desktop, but I am going to call it high contrast because I want to recognize this file. And I'm going to leave it a PSD with layers. There you go, guys. That is your lesson. Close your file, and we can move on to step 2, which is converting it to a vector file in Illustrator. Thank you, guys. Look forward to the next video.